fair listener. My name is Ryan Whedon.
I'm Matthew Fisher.
And I'm going to go lower energy than you.
I was going to say, this is our most solemn opening to date. Maybe it's the choice of film someone chose.
You think we can do this tastefully?
No.
I mean, I've got a blowjob joke in the loaded, ready to go.
Well.
Stay tuned.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Blowjob joke on the horizon.
Indeed.
Looking forward to
it. We just passed a billboard that says 257 minutes until blowjob joke.
It's not going to be that long.
No. We'll get that one out early.
I have a new love in my life.
Yeah?
Yeah. I haven't seen the movie yet, but Tom Holland, the new Spider-Man. And it's not because of anything that he did in Spider-Man. Still haven't seen the movie. I might fall in love with him. You know, he seems like a little spider minx. You know? But I saw him in a lip sync battle episode.
Oh.
Where he did start out doing Singing in the Rain.
Okay.
Which I know that you haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
But then it transforms into Rihanna's Umbrella. Because he's singing in the rain. He's got an umbrella.
That makes sense.
He does it in full drag. Ooh. Like fishnet stockings and like corsets.
Oof.
That boy can dance.
Yeah?
And as, you know, longtime listeners will know, my level of attraction goes up infinitely if you can dance.
Yeah.
And he really can, and he like knocks it out of the park. Like leans in heavy to the drag shtick, but then like can actually dance on top of it. Oh. And yeah, so I feel bad because he's 21. It's outside of my comfort zone.
Right. What was that? We came up with a formula.
Half your age plus 7.
Okay.
Is usually like the acceptable bar, and even like. Not in terms of, like, looks, but just in terms of, like, maturity. Like, I can't go lower than that anymore. Yeah. Like, it's just different mindsets. But I might make an exception.
Can you imagine the ego on that kid, though? I'm in a blockbuster movie at 21.
I know. Oh, it's going to be like dating Justin Bieber.
All over again?
Oh, that was worse than our time together. So, did you watch anything outside the podcast this week?
I did.
Yeah?
I finally got around to watching, and I know I'm saying this wrong, Okaya?
Oh, the Bong Joon-ho movie?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You say finally as if it's been out for ages.
Yeah, it came out last week, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's something I wanted to watch immediately and didn't. So, I was on vacation, Anyway, I haven't seen a movie by that director that I don't like yet.
Barking Dogs Don't Bite?
I liked it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But this movie I think is good. His like moniker of being the South Korean Steven Spielberg is really starting to show in this movie, particularly, I feel.
He has that moniker?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh. Well, maybe I just read that somewhere. Or I made it up in my head. Either way, it really feels like a Spielberg blockbuster, but with like a more cynical edge to it.
All right.
Tilda Swinton is great. The little girl is really good. Paul Dano is actually pretty good. He's a real hit or miss actor for me, but I liked him a lot in this.
How much does he fart in this movie?
He doesn't fart
at
all, but the titular porcine character definitely has some turds and farts all over the screen. But Jake Gyllenhaal is in this movie, and he is unhinged.
Really?
It is an intense performance.
More or less intense than Nightcrawler?
More, but in a different way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like watching a cartoon.
Really?
Yeah, it's intense.
All right.
And, Tilda Swinton can choose some scenery when she wants to, but I think she gets a little outacted.
By J.G. Hall?
Yeah, it's recommended, if nothing else, for his acting in that. But, I like it. It has a cynical, like I said, it's a Spielberg movie, but with a cynical edge. Okay. And it's way more. It's like, as far as getting original content in a blockbuster, which you don't really get anymore from Hollywood, it's all like superhero movies. This is great. It's really good. It's a good story, and it's bilingual. There's like switches naturally between English and Korean all over the place, and I don't know. I liked it. I recommend it, especially if you're a fan of this director, like myself. He hasn't blown me away for a while, but still way up there.
Yeah, because I remember you and I saw Snowpiercer in theaters together.
Yeah, which I liked.
Yes.
I don't think it wasn't the amazeballs experience I was expecting.
I remember, like, we both walked away from it being like, I liked it. Mm-hmm. But, like, we weren't like, oh my god. Like,
yeah.
We were both like, that was solid. Like, totally worth watching.
Yeah.
I watched it, a year or two later with some other friends. And in that, there's, like, the scene where they find out, like, the protein bars that they've been eating were made of bugs.
Right.
And I was watching it with someone who goes, bugs are a great source of protein.
Yeah.
Like, what?
This is practical.
Yeah. And I'm like, what's the big deal? And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, this dude literally eats a baby and he's complaining about grasshoppers.
Yeah. Good point.
So, I don't know. I feel like if push came to shove, I wouldn't really, I'm also like the Pumbaa in my own life, so maybe I'm biased.
Hey, Hakuna Matata.
You're sort of a Timon.
Yeah?
Timon and Pumbaa, two confirmed bachelors. Out in the wild.
Yeah, just running around.
Singing Elton John songs.
How about you?
I watched a bunch of stuff. Have you ever heard of a movie called Brainstorm?
I don't know.
It stars Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood in Natalie Wood's last movie.
Wow.
It's about sensory replication machines.
Oh, okay.
Like, you put on a helmet and you feel emotions and sense and taste and everything, what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
And someone puts on the recording device while they die.
Ugh.
So it's a little bit, it's like if Flatliners was directed by Michael Crichton.
Okay. Sounds kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. It's also kind of long and kind of slow. And it starts out like very much like a science fiction film. Like, it's heavy on the science part.
Okay.
And at the end, it gives like this full-throated endorsement to like Judeo-Christian beliefs. Like, I'm like, it looks cool. Like, it looks great. But I'm like, this was like so science-y at the beginning, and now it's like there's just some things we'll never understand. And I'm like, oh.
Boo!
Yeah. It mixed feelings on it. But...
Natalie Wood drowned, and that was her biggest fear. Isn't that awful?
Was that her biggest fear?
Yeah, I saw something, it was like a behind the scenes of, what is it, Leaves of Grass?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not right. Splendor in the Grass. Where she's swimming in this big thing, and she was terrified to do that scene because her biggest fear was drowning, and then she drowned. Not while filming that, but
under mysterious circumstances nonetheless.
Yeah.
Because, like, she was on a boat,
yeah,
and then she wasn't on the boat.
Natalie.
And it was Christopher Walken's boat.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the celebrity gossip rumor is that someone caught Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken, like, she walked in on them, and they threw her off. That's
what?
That's like the juicy celebrity gossip. I think it was Robert Wagner.
God, this is juicy. And like
Christopher Walken like does not talk about it. Like, their like official statement is like she fell off the boat. Not to perpetuate rumors.
I'm totally, when I go home, I'm gonna just internet hole this. I'm going down that rabbit hole. speaking of murder...
Hashtag smooth transition.
Would you like to talk about today's movie?
I would. Why don't you introduce it for us?
Great. Well, the movie that I picked for this week is Fritz Lang's 1931 masterpiece, M. Just the letter.
Now, before we dive into this, I'd like to ask you, what was your motivation for choosing this?
I had a few.
Okay.
A big one was that last season I focused a lot on movies from the last 20 years or so. So I wanted to pick something older. I wanted to pick something in a foreign language. So this kind of fit both those bills. And, you know, after watching it today, I'm going to throw in there that it's a stylish piece of cinema that I don't feel like enough people know about.
Okay.
And I want to spread the word about it.
Okay.
It's about child murder.
It really is. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat that.
No, yeah, the first sequence of scenes is literally
children...
a little girl getting killed. We don't see it.
The very first scene is like the children playing like hopscotch or whatever,
right? With
like the children's rhyme about being murdered.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that this was his first talkie or first like movie with sound.
Yeah,
1931 is where this is from, and he starts it off with black screen and a bell dinging. And then you hear the children's voices. And then it comes up on them. So it's like he's kind of saying, you know, sound. He's really thinking about sound as an element to this, which I really like too.
Well, I was thinking, because he made Metropolis only 4 years earlier, Fritz Lang did. And really, it's almost like, he's like, well, this is all you can do with silent film. Like, I have reached the peak, so you guys better come up with some new technology for me.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it really is, like, Metropolis is huge.
Yeah.
Like, by any measure or metric. Like, creatively or just scale, like, it's massive.
Totally.
And then M, like, in comparison to scale, is small, but he, like, already had a full understanding of movies with sound, like that new medium.
Right.
He already seemed to grasp and understand.
Right. It comes out as really a fully formed movie.
Yeah.
You know, like it wasn't like there were a couple times where it feels like he's experimenting with sound a little bit, but for the most part, it's successful, I would say. Because there's a couple times in the movie where it goes completely silent, and that feels more like a conscious choice on his part than like, well, we don't know how to make all these sounds, you know, because it's always broken by like something shocking, like a whistle or I don't know. There's a couple times where it happens, but it's really you just get the impression that he was really thinking about how sound can be integrated into film.
Yeah, because he uses sound a lot that's not necessarily on the screen, like the whistle motif.
Yeah.
Like, rarely do you see the character whistling it on screen.
Right, only once, I think.
You hear it off screen, and it tells you that character is nearby.
Right.
Like, you don't see him, but you know that he's somewhere within, like, you know, close proximity to what you're seeing in frame.
Yeah. And he does that immediately, too. It's, you know, we see him, the first time we see Peter Lorre, who's the character, on screen, it's his shadow over the wanted poster for the child murder. And then I'm not sure if he's whistling as he comes up or if it's like right after that, but it's like, you know, that when you hear that whistle, that it's associated with him. And that's actually the first time that it was on film that it was like a little musical reference was used to signify a character. So, good job, Fritz.
I mean, he's German. Listened to Wagner probably his whole life.
Yeah.
Probably had an idea of how to use a leitmotif.
Indeed. I wanted to talk for a split second about Fritz Lang, the man.
Yeah.
He made this movie in 1931. Hitler came to power in 1933, in January of 1933, and Joseph Goebbels, of all people, called him into his office because he was making a movie that was kind of like not so happy, not so like praising of the Nazi Party. So Joseph Goebbels called him into his office and was like, "Okay, we're gonna ban this movie that you're making now. Just, it doesn't make us look good." He's like, "But I want to offer you this job as head of like our, film company, like whatever,
Ministry of Cinema."
Yeah, he's like, "I want you to do that." And Fritz Lang, kind of surveyed the situation. Was like, "Let me think about that," and then left that night. He's like, "I'm going to Paris. Bye."
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he just saw the writing on the wall and was like, "I'm getting out of here," which was good on him.
Yeah.
His wife, who at the time helped him write M,
okay,
was starting to sympathize with the Nazi Party.
Oh.
So he got a divorce from her and took off.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She helped him write Metropolis, too, all the stuff in the 1920s.
Which is weird, because Metropolis has a lot of, like, it's sort of a, it has that science fiction hyperbole of, like, a class system.
Right.
It's weird, and, like, the perils of, a prejudiced society and things like that. So It's weird that someone who ended up ultimately sympathizing with the Nazis would, write, basically an allegory for, or help write an allegory for, like, the perils of, like, a society with, like, a structured class system and prejudice.
It's funny how you can switch like that. How, and I blame Goebbels a lot for that. Like, when somebody's in charge of propaganda in such a way that it really like it can warp somebody's sensibilities. If
like the Lion King did for us.
Yeah, indeed. It's Hitler, Joseph Goebbels, and Walt Disney. I mean, right there.
History's greatest perverts.
But so I don't know if this was a thing already in cinema, but like it jumped out to me that like there's the mom of the child who ends up dying, and she's looking at the clock, and like at one point it says noon, and then she looks up a little later and it's 20 minutes past, and then she looks up later and it's 1:15.
Okay.
And I don't know how often we get that as just like showing us the passage of time. Like it almost seems like that's something that would have been written in as dialogue.
Oh, okay.
Whereas this is actually just showing us, we just infer that time is passing. And I think it's just a sophisticated move on screenwriter or director's part to show us that time is passing, There's just a lot of sophisticated moves like that throughout this movie that I think is impressive for 1931.
Yeah. I'm not super well versed with silent cinema. I mean, most of the silent cinema I know is comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know too terribly much about like silent dramas. But in that same scene when like the mother's calling for Elise, I think is the child's name.
Elsie.
Yeah. She calls for her, and the camera like looks down a spiral staircase. And then like she calls her again, and the camera is at like an empty seat at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And that reminded me so much of another movie about child murder. Well, not movie, but the pilot to Twin Peaks.
Oh.
Because
right, yeah.
There's the scene when like the mother is crying after she realizes that Laura's dead.
Right.
And the camera is just looking up at like the empty hallway and like the ceiling fan spinning.
Totally, yeah.
And at school, at the high school, when it's starting to circulate around the kids, like other high schoolers, you see her starting to get nervous, and she looks outside, and like a girl is like running outside crying with like her hands, and there's no real dialogue. You hear the girl crying, and then it cuts back to Lara from Boyle, and she's crying,
right?
And then it like cuts to what she's crying at, and it's the empty chair where Laura would have been.
Right.
I mean, it's in frame. I don't know if that's where Laura would have been. That's definitely the implication by like the camera cutting to the chair.
Yeah.
And it was just that that David Lynch used like staircase with like at the mom's or at the parents' house,
right,
and then like the chair at the school, and like Fritz Lang used the staircase in like the apartment building,
right,
and then the chair at the dinner table.
And then to like seal the deal, he shows the balloon that Peter Lorre bought for her earlier, just like floating up, getting caught in lines, and then the freaking ball she was bouncing, you see it just like tumble down, and they're all like just. It's not saying like, oh, guess she did. You know, it's like the absence is enough for you to infer that like, oh, she did not make it.
Yeah.
And it's heavy. It's a heavy way to start a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not many I can't think of many other films that deal with this heavy of subject matter in this way.
Yeah.
That kind of look at it in an unflinching way.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely movies that are sort of like fantastical or like a period piece or something that, might take place during, warfare or something that like dealt with, infanticide or something.
Mm-hmm.
But to deal with it like in a modern setting, I mean, modern for 1931.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of another movie that really was bold enough to take that step.
And it's cool what he does right after that, because then he focuses on like the hysteria that it's causing in the town.
How quickly they become like a police state.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's well written because it's like it's basically a series of vignettes, right, of characters that aren't connected to each other, but by like a line will happen that connects them together. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I made a note here that really like. We're introduced to the character of Peter Lorre, but he doesn't have really that much screen time until like the last act.
Yeah.
Like we see him for a little bit, and I actually wondered like if I didn't already know that Peter Lorre was the star of this, would I identify this character as the killer? Mm-hmm. Because really like the first time we see his face is when he's like
playing with it in the mirror.
Yeah, when he's like making like smile motions with like his fingers in his face in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I started thinking like, if I didn't already know that Peter Lorre was the murderer, would I as an audience member know that that's the villain of the story?
And I think we're supposed to know that because there's a voiceover of either the police chief or somebody describing like what this type of person would be like.
Okay.
Like, what kind of mentality it takes to be a murderer like this. And so then like that's when it cuts to Peter Lorre playing with his face. So I think it's supposed to be inferred that like, yeah, we're talking about this guy.
Okay.
Which is so savvy,
Okay, yeah.
It's really sophisticated to be like, we're going to be showing this thing, but this other guy who's off screen is going to be talking. And you're going to understand from what we're showing you that this is what we're talking about.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's lots of that in this, where there's like voiceover stuff that I don't think would work without sound.
Okay.
There's like, where was it? So yeah, there's the montage of searching, like they talk about the candy wrapper, right? The police officer is talking about how like this is a lead we have, and then that entails like searching in this radius and then searching in this radius and going to various candy stores. And then it's just showing a montage of all that happening. And I don't think you would completely understand what was going on if you didn't have the voiceover going over it.
I was definitely thinking, like, how many title cards would this require if this wasn't a talkie?
Right.
Like, yeah, it requires so much sort of explanation in order to get the plot across. But, like, he does it in like, a compact manner. Like, it's not like it's all exposition. It's like telling and showing all at the same time.
Right.
They're explaining the process and they're showing you the process, and like just like little things like as they're like drawing like the spirals out on like the map to like show like the the circumference and like the area of like where the search is taking place. It's sort of like visually stimulating, like the spiral itself is sort of eye catching.
Yeah. And like just the idea that there's going to be this, like the main story is the voice that this guy is talking. but showing something different underneath while he's talking, I think, is kind of a new concept at that time. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you would always just be seeing the people talking if they were saying something, but then this is kind of subverting that a little bit, showing there's different ways to tell a story. And I think there's even a time, too, like right after that, when he's talking about how people are, he's like, we had this case this other time where people would, give us discrepancies in their descriptions, and it's the two guys like fighting over green and red, like what color some other murderers, like the hat they were wearing.
Natürlich, Herr Kommissar. Die Mütze war rot. Herr Kommissar, die Mütze war grün. Die Mütze war rot. Die Mütze war grün. Rot, grün, rot, grün.
That's basically a flashback, because it's like, he's like, oh yeah, we had this thing this one time, and then it cuts to that scene. I feel like that's kind of different and weird too, like he's breaking up the timeline in a way that would I'm guessing, kind of be jarring at the time. I don't know. We're just so used to it now. Like, I don't know how that would read in 1931.
Yeah, and you were talking about how, like, the movie has, like, the different sects that it focuses on. Yeah. There's, like, the police, and there's, like, the underworld thing, and there's, like, members of, like, the public at large.
Yeah.
Because there's not really a star in this movie. Like, we recognize certain groups and certain individuals in groups, but, like, none of them could you really categorize as the protagonist.
Yeah.
Like, they each play their part in, like, the certain, portion of society that they're depicted in, but none of them are our hero necessarily.
Yeah, we don't have a hero.
I mean, Peter Lorre maybe as the anti-hero, but even then, like, we're not really rooting for the guy.
I'm not. Yeah, and even, like, the main investigator in the police, I wrote his name down, Lohman.
Okay.
Detective Lohman is kind of like a little bumbling,
Sure.
Like, he's just doing his job, and he's like hits dead ends. He's always one step behind a little bit too.
Yeah, it in a lot of ways you can trace this to modern day procedurals, and like I saw the influence of this on Zodiac. Like, while rewatching it.
Yeah.
Just trying to, paint the psychological portrait, but also, being one step behind. Because, in Zodiac, spoiler alert, they never catch him. Mm-hmm. It's a true life story. I don't know if we need a spoiler alert for true life
Something
events.
That really happened?
Yeah. Especially 40-year-old true events.
Yeah, Reagan got shot. Spoiler alert, he survived.
Yeah, that story's got an unhappy ending. But, I mean, the way that it was, like, the police procedural, following a killer that, like, seemingly couldn't really be caught.
Right.
I don't know, it just reminded me a lot of, I mean, even, like, Silence of the Lambs, up through 7 and Zodiac. And reminding me of 7, too, because, not to jump too far ahead, but, once they catch the killer in 7...
Right, it's the same conundrum.
You kind of almost sympathize with him a little bit. Like, once Peter Lorre lays out his case, and, I'm not a mental health expert, but it sounds like he is describing paranoid schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And you have that, like, little tinge that, like, you understand that he knows morally what he's doing is wrong.
Right.
But that he can't stop himself.
Right.
That it's not a matter of willpower. Like, he loses control and he loses sense while he's doing this.
Right. But then that's where it makes it really hard at the end, because then it's like, well, can you apply that to anybody? It's like, oh, then there's even one of the, like, beggars guys who stands up and is like, yeah, we've all said that before the judge. Like, I couldn't help it,
Yeah.
So it's sort of, it's tough.
And it has that moral quandary at the end that is like, does the state have the right to execute someone? It's like,
Or does the mob?
Yeah. It's like, it has the right to, detain you and stop you from doing crimes. Does that entail state-sanctioned murder?
Yeah.
And, like, it has this, like, just wonderful moral quandary at the very end.
And it doesn't answer the question because we don't know if he's guilty or not at the end. We never get a final verdict.
I mean, we know he's guilty.
Well, we do, you're right. It's not... morally ambiguous for us.
Yeah.
As far as if he did it or not, but it becomes morally ambiguous as to whether or not is this, like his defense lawyer says, you don't send a sick person to an executioner, you send them to a doctor.
Yeah.
And so he makes the argument this guy is sick and he needs mental help, not to be killed.
But I mean, just the way that he talks about, he feels like he can't escape himself, that he feels like there's a specter of him chasing him around.
Immer muss ich durch Straßen gehen und immer spüre ich, da ist einer hinter mir her. Das bin ich selber und verfolgt mich. Lautlos. Aber ich höre es doch. Ja, manchmal ist mir, als ob ich selber hinter mir herliefe. Ich will von mir selber davonlaufen. Aber ich kann mir nicht entkommen. Muss den Weg gehen, den es mich jagt. Muss rennen, endlose Straßen. Ich will weg. Und mit mir rennen die Gespenster von Müttern, von Kindern. Die gehen nie mehr weg. Die sind immer da. Immer.
Did you watch that Louis C.K. show, Horace and Pete?
No, I haven't.
Steve Buscemi's character in that suffers from some sort of schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like the same thing. And Steve Buscemi's sort of like a modern day Peter Lorre in my eyes.
Okay.
But it's like he has like the same struggles. Like he's medicated in the show, but at like one point, like his insurance stops covering his medication.
Oh no.
And he starts becoming violent towards other characters. And yeah, it's like in his head, he's not seeing himself being violent. Like he's seeing himself as like protecting or like running away, but like in reality, that's what's happening.
This has happened in real life too. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, there was that incident on a Greyhound bus in Canada where some dude who had schizophrenia stopped taking his meds and ended up decapitating the person next to him on the bus.
Oh, God.
And it's like, what do you do in that situation? Because it's like, as long as he's taking his meds, he's just a normal person and he can like function within society. But it's like you just decide one day not to take them and there's nobody looking over you to make sure that you are. Like somebody could lose their head.
Yeah.
It's fucked. It's a tough situation.
Well, you brought up Reagan's assassination attempt. Was it John Hinckley? Was that? Yeah, that's the name of
the guy who shot John Lennon? Shit.
That's Mark David Chapman.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were...
No, John Hinckley was the guy.
I'm on board. I gotcha. We're on the same page now.
To impress Jodie Foster.
Right. Right.
But he is essentially free now. Because he was deemed mentally ill.
Yeah.
And he went to a home, an asylum. But then he was deemed no longer a threat to the public. Mm-hmm. And he's in his parents' care.
Yeah.
He lives with his parents, but he's free. He can go see movies and go to the grocery store, Right. He's in their care, but I was like, oh, that's... For a guy who, like, shot a president...
And they make that argument in this movie, too, because they're like, oh, well then, if you do get a trial, you're just going to plead insanity and then, like, be let out after you're cured, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
And then, like, it all happens again. And this is in 1931 that he's talking about this shit.
What did we do as a society before drugs? Like...
Don't know.
Before, like... I don't know what the term is, but, like, mood-altering drugs.
Yeah.
Like, we just...
You're bad, we're locking you up.
Well, I was going to say, I guess we just had insane asylums where we...
Put him in a straitjacket and say...
Violated human rights.
Yeah. Oh, God. Dark. Oof. I like that there's the mob element to this, too.
They kind of take...
The, like, vigilante justice kind of, because they're like... We operate under the law, and we can't do our job if the law is out looking for a child murderer because they are on it and doing raids and we need to fucking do our thing. And so, like, they're like, well, we need to capture this murderer so that we can get on with our business. I kind of like that dark element to it.
It strikes me as very real.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There was something about it, like, that just seemed true to life. I don't know if I can really explain why, but I'm just like, no. That seems how it operates.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the way to go. Just like the police are looking, which just means like, look, murder upsets a community, any community, and that includes your mob, your local mob.
Yeah.
They don't like it either.
Oh, there's no justice like angry mob justice.
I love the bartender woman in the, I'm assuming it's some kind of speakeasy or something, I don't know. But, like, after they've raided her place and kicked everybody out.
Oh, yeah, I remember, like, someone was like, the cops are coming, and, like,
right.
Suddenly everyone's scattered, and, like, yeah, she pulls, like, a lever, and, like, bars come down, like, shatters glasses.
Yeah, it's like those gas stations with, like, the full plexiglass.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, were people not allowed to drink?
I'm not sure what was exact. I mean, I'm sure that there was prostitution going on there, and she addresses that, and she's like, whatever, business is business. But then she's also just like, look, you guys raiding my place is A, killing my business, and believe me, these people want to see this fucking killer dead too.
Wenn kleine Kinder spielen sieht. Wenn die Bestie unter die Finger kriegten, Brennholz würden sie aus dem machen, kann ich Ihnen sagen.
We hate him just as much as you do because you guys coming around here fucks up our fun.
Well, also it's like pedophiles and like child murderers are like, when you send them to jail, it's essentially a death sentence. Yeah. Like, even other criminals don't tolerate that sort of thing.
Mm. I mean, besides the fact that, you know, the script is really savvy and covers, like, all these bases that we're talking about now, there's a lot of stylistic moves that are cool. Like, when we finally learn about the organization of beggars...
Die Organisation der Bettler.
Okay. There's this, like...
They've unionized?
Yeah. There's this amazing... It's almost a oneer where he's just, like, flying around this room where all these beggars are, right? Where it's like, you see them playing cards, you see one of them examining a sandwich, and his line is, blood pudding is on the upswing.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, and it's like, it's all a one shot. And, I mean, it's a shaky camera because, like, I didn't have Steadicam then. But then it zooms up and then fades out and then fades back in.
You mean their dollies weren't totally shock resistant in 1931?
Can you believe it? But then there's a cool shot where he actually, like, goes in through the window. Did you notice this? Like, he's going in through a window, and I really don't know how they filmed it, unless they, like...
Was there the frame? Maybe it was just the frame and no glass?
No, because it's a paned window.
Oh, okay.
And the camera goes through, like, one tiny pane, and you can see the glass getting removed.
Okay.
But then, like, I don't know how he continued to the camera through the pane, because the pane is tiny. It's like a Kleenex box size pane. And somehow the camera keeps moving past it. Unless they, like, somehow the pane moves to... I'll show it to you. Because it's really... I don't know how he did it. It's cool.
I mean, Fritz Lang... This is someone who, like, cut their teeth making silent films.
Yeah.
And silent films, like, you got no choice but to, like, do stuff visually.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, even the tricks in Metropolis, like, people still are amazed at that, you know. It's like he was thinking, like, he skipped a step, you know, in thinking. It wasn't like he did the next logical step. It's like he saw that next logical step and just skipped right over to the next one.
Just, like, kept doing it. I don't know. It's pretty cool. There's just lots of little savvy moments like that. There was when the mob boss or whatever, the safe breaker, I think is what his name is talking to his group of other mob people and is just like, we need to figure out how to get to this guy. And then he makes, like, a gesture with his hand, and then there's a cut to the police chief making that exact same gesture.
They did a lot of, like, the mirroring of, like, gestures and, like, because there was one where, like, it was like all the police were like sitting at a table like discussing like how to do things, and then it cuts to the mob and they're all sitting at like the same spots at the table.
Yeah.
Also discussing it, but going at it at a different way.
Completely
Like
different
the police were discussing like a tactician's way of doing things. You know, I think that's when they were like talking about like going from like the candy store out, like where they found the wrapper, and like moving outwards.
Right.
And then it goes to like the mob, and then they're not being as clinical as the police. Like they're talking like broad strokes and things like that, but they were all sitting at a table in a very similar manner.
Right. And there's also just like it's the way he moves around, like time and space is great. Like so at the end, before we get to the abandoned brewery, I think is what it is, where they have the trial, quote unquote.
Yeah.
The way we get to that part is our main detective, Lohman, is interviewing that one guy who got left behind, and he's like, where are they having it? And he's like, okay, fine, well, they took him to this place. And then he starts describing it, and we cut to like exterior shots of it, and then like interior shots.
Die in der Inflation pleite gemacht haben.
Jawohl. Und seit der Zeit steht das Ding nun
And
leer
then
und es
the
kümmert sich kein
voiceover
Mensch mehr darum.
stops, and then we're just there.
Yeah.
Like, that is really savvy as far as, like, transporting you from one place to the other. You know, it feels very smooth, like, and very natural to just go from, like, this guy just, like, you're just seeing the thing he's describing, and then when he stops talking, we're just there. It's like we've been transported, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really great. For 1931.
You don't have to be bashful, you can own it.
It's cool.
And
I mean, it's something that, again, it's one of those things that you see all the time now, but back then, it was really smart, especially for your first talkie, you know? Imagine never getting to use sound for 10 years in film, and then suddenly you do, and you're doing it
you're
in
probably brimming with ideas. Gotta sit on all those great nuggets for 10 years. One day.
I love the idea of him editing something before sound was available and just being like, fuck! Only gonna have sound!
So the very, very end, you have, like, the mothers.
Right.
Like, waiting to hear what, like, the judgment's gonna be, essentially.
Right.
And it sort of, like, just ends abruptly, but, like, the one mother says, like, there's no judgment that's gonna bring our children back. And then the movie ends.
Yeah. It's basically like, Helen Lovejoy, won't someone think of the children?
Please think of the children!
And, yeah, it's jarring.
Like, the movie ended almost like, that's it? I was like, is that how this really ends? Like, we don't know what the outcome for Peter Lorre is going to be like. We don't know whether or not, like, the state has found him guilty, innocent, crazy, whatever. But then it just ends on that note that, like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is. Like, nothing's going to fix what's been broken.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and it's like, roll credits.
It's like, did you ever watch film strips in, like, elementary school or something, and then, like, it runs to the end and it just starts flapping?
Yeah.
Like, that's probably what happened when this movie ended. It's just, you know?
And there's just a German audience being like, what?
It's like, oh my god.
Fritz, I wanted Metropolis.
Oh, I'm gonna join the Nazis now. I don't know. It's an intense movie that just feels way ahead of its time to me.
Yeah.
Like it's basically a proto-noir.
I was gonna say, this movie feels at least 20 years ahead of its time.
Yeah. He's one of the greats. And,
he's also, like, quintessential, like, when you think of, like...
Oh, right. I know what you're gonna say.
Total, like, art house, like, controlling director. It's like, he's got, like, the monocle, and, like, the bald head, and just everything.
I just picture him picking up a big megaphone and be like, do it again!
Exactly. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, actually, too. Seems like that kind of a guy.
So we were 257 minutes away, and It looks like 28 seconds has passed, so how many minutes away are we from that blowjob joke?
Oh, it's next exit. We should take it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We were saying a lot of nice things about Fritz Lang and his directorial style and like inventiveness. There is one shot that I take umbrage with, and that is of Detective Lohman talking to someone on the phone, and for no particular reason, we cut to under the desk, and there's like this weird upshot of his crotch.
Yes.
And it's like
the place
you would
the moose knuckle.
It's the place you would hide if you were giving someone a BJ while at their desk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all I could think about during that scene.
Just the prime blowjob exposure?
Yeah, or like you're hiding from someone who might come into the office. It's a weird place to put your audience. It's
I definitely thought about that.
It's just, I don't know. And I think he's just trying to break up the visual style, which, good on you, but I think this is a miss.
So was that the blowjob joke?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like Badum Ching.
Oh, no. Let's see.
You blew it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Question to you. Do you like this movie?
Oh, of course.
Oh, good. Okay.
I mean, it's sort of unequivocally a good movie.
Yeah. Okay, good.
This is one of those movies, like, if you don't like it, do you even really like movies?
Yeah. Do you understand what filmmaking is? All in all, if you haven't seen this movie, please do. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah.
It's a movie that I really highly recommend. And I know it's maybe a tough sell because it's old and black and white and in German, but you're going to like it. I promise you. Everybody will like this movie. I have one more thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
When they're going around to the candy shops, there's one candy shop that looks like it's selling regular caramel and salted caramel.
And you hate salted caramel.
Yeah, well, I take umbrage with the fact that there's even salted caramel in this movie. It's disgusting.
This is where you and I are going to have to disagree.
What?
Salted caramel is so good.
Matt, what are you talking about?
Salty, sweet, like, there's nothing better in life
There
than
is
putting your hands together to form the salty-sweet combo.
There's a time and a place for salty and sweet, and it's not caramel. Caramel is a sweet confection, period.
Alright, where do salty and sweet mix appropriately?
Cheese and apples.
You just gotta be healthy about it, don't you?
Don't put salt in my candy. I don't like it.
Nutella on saltines, salt on caramel, caramel on corn, popcorn, that is.
All right. Kettle corn is delicious.
Okay.
I'll agree with that. But that popcorn's a thing that can go salty or sweet. You know, you can go either way with that.
I don't know, man. Salted caramel is okay in my book.
Oh, God. Do we have any listeners out there who agree with me that salted caramel is gross? Because if I'm the only one, I'm willing to step down.
See, the problem with this is that I'm a blowhard, so people will take your side just to not be on my side.
I will take any people on my side that I can, regardless of their blowhardedness, blowharded aversionness.
We'll ruminate on that later.
Yeah. Anyway, what do we got to follow this?
So you know how earlier I described this movie as being unequivocally good?
Yes.
I'm going to make you watch a movie that's the exact opposite.
Oh, no.
Which is to say that it's equivocally bad.
Oh, great. Okay.
you'll watch it and you'll think that was terrible, and then you'll think about it and you're like, maybe it wasn't?
Okay.
It's a late Francis Ford Coppola movie called Twixt.
Oh, okay.
Came out like 2011.
I haven't seen it.
And you're really not going to know how to feel about this one walking away.
Twix, like the candy.
Twixt.
Twixt?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Twixt. Yeah.
Okay. I'm up for it.
All right.
I don't have a choice. Hey, let's plug our junk.
Follow us on Twitter at X-Rated Movies.
A lot of fun stuff happening there recently. We have an email account. It's ex.rated.movies@gmail.com. x.rated.movies.
Need a spelling bee here?
Can you use the word in a sentence?
Like us on Facebook at Rated X Movies.
Yeah, and if you've got some time, write a little review on the iTunes or throw us a few stars there.
Or subscribe.
Yeah, subscribing's a fun way to do it too.
Rate, review, subscribe. Any combination of those three.
Any and all are welcome. We do have a Patreon, and I've set up a couple goals there, so if you want to help us go to a podcast convention in December or help us get new microphones, that's where you can put your dollars. Insert your dollars here.
We also have an Instagram account.
That's right.
X-Rated Movies.
I mean, just lots. We're on Reddit, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Look for, basically the all caps movie ones. But it's in the Seattle podcast subreddit.
Yeah. We're doing stuff there.
Wow, I feel like this is the first episode where the closing is as long as the rest of the podcast.
I mean, our junk just keeps growing that we need to plug.
It's going to be an unpluggable junk here soon enough. Just
we're going to have a podcast that's just our junk plugging.
Let's just say our junk could fill up quite a dike. I mean, like a dam.
Yes, I knew what you meant. I was on board. Thank you for listening. If you're still there, listeners, we'll see you next week with Twixt, a candy that should remain sweet, not salty.
Salty and sweet. End of podcast.